Okay, so now for the alerts. The section alerts is pretty simple. So guess we'll just turn them on. So I'm going to put show in table. That's going to make them appear here. And I'm going to turn that off. That way we'll have something left over even if we're not in the middle of a trade. If you turn that on, then you're only going to see alert information in here during a trade, which is just a way of, having less on the screen. And right now, this is normal size, so you can probably read that. But if not, that's fine. I'm not going to go into how to read this in this particular video. This is really just going through the settings here. I'll do a separate separate video on these, and I'll probably do it in an interactive with someone who doesn't know it yet. Ugh. I've been doing videos all day. It's starting to get tongue-tied. So anyway, going through here, it defaults to manual trading, which means you can take this data and instigate a trade. And then when the trade does anything other than open, then here you can close it or do a move stop, which are really only two things: take a trade, move stop, or close it. There's no scaling in, scaling out in this system. You can't just say, I'm going to take a half trade now and then another half trade a bit later. That's one thing we don't do in this. Um, but it will tell you exactly what your position sizing should be. So if you're using dynamic trading, it's not going to be a fixed 2%. Right now, it's a fixed 2%. But if you're doing dynamic position sizing, it could be anything, whatever it calculates as your optimal betting amount. Let's see, what else can I do? Show here. At the moment, these two forms are not officially released. You're kind of seeing a preview. Um, they will be released in the near future, but there's some testing that's got to happen. So you're kind of seeing a preview, but we're going to be able to connect to Pick My Trade, which is good for futures and maybe some other things. And Pine Connector is very good for Forex. It connects MetaTrader and TradingView. Um, so to give you an example of what that looks like, let's just take one of these. And you'll see here I've got include automation version. So, and I'm going to have to make some space here. So we'll turn that off. Might be able to just make the browser. There we go. Now the browser's kind of covering everything. Um, so now if we go here, you can see this is the actual code that would be sent to the, trying to think of the name now, to Pick My Trade, right? And as you can see, the token account ID is blank. You should probably not have this showing with other people around because that it is going to show token account ID. Now that I think about it, maybe I'll strip that. I'll think about it from a security point of view. I don't know if someone would want to see it or not want to see it. But we'll play that one by ear until and base it on a little bit of feedback. One thing that won't happen, and you will already know this, when you export settings, these do get stripped out. But here, because it's a diagnostic tool, maybe not. We'll think about that because it's really only meant to show up on the person who owns the accounts anyway, screen. So got to think that one through a little bit. Let's see, where was I up to? Oops, too far. Here we go. That's pretty much it. Each one of these sections is for each one of those potential vendors. Ignore a Nexus Server Key. That's not operational at the moment, but in the future, Nexus may actually replace these guys in some way or be an additional resource. But at the moment, we don't do that. We're just using what other people have created. This use percentage for the move stop, that's experimental. Going through the Pick My Trade documentation, they suggest to use an absolute value. My problem with absolute values, which I try and avoid when going to brokers, is that TradingView prices are different to broker prices, right? And so if you use an absolute value, especially if you've got a trading system that's kind of fairly tight in its movements, you'll end up losing trades that TradingView says you're winning. So I'm going to see if they'll allow percentages, if we can make it work. And then we can choose to either do it the way they say or the way that I've found that works. At least when going through Pine Connector, maybe there's some differences in futures. Maybe they're all identical or something. I don't know. But in general, given that brokers are different to TradingView, I don't trust this whole idea of using absolute values. That's why when you look through here, you can see it says relative, right? It's all relative values, and that's a way of making sure that we don't mess up in the translation from TradingView to a broker account. Despace vertically, just so you know, it's pretty much what it says. If you get this in an email because you set up an alert, because these are alerts, these would be far more spaced, but for visual compactness, I strip out the vertical space here. But if for some reason you don't want it that way, you can see it here. You can see it spaced out just like it would be in an email or something. And this remove from table after trade is finished is exactly what it says. Looks like we haven't got a closed trade here or a move stop at the moment, so nothing to see there, but this would just be anything additional to an open. And the reason we would have something additional to an open here is because it just makes sense to have both, right? To open and maybe another command. But we don't need every command for the trade listed out. We just need open plus whatever else is going on. So that's the way I've put it together. If someone finds, other, how do I put it, other criteria, other ways of doing things that they prefer, they can always tell me and I'll consider it. I'm sure you can guess that DSpace and alerts is just doing what we did here in your email or whatever. And that's about it. There's not much more to say about the alert section. It's coming, at least in terms of the auto trading. The manual trading is already there.